Energy healing has changed my life and that of my family's. I trained as a traditional dietitian 26 years ago, and it was good in the beginning, and then I realized I was a little bit more maybe natural, alternative, and had a natural birth, had a home birth, and was into more raw foods and vegan foods and things like that. Well, this is back in the 90s. Maybe that stuff was a little bit more alternative back then. And after I had my kids, we all began to suffer some major health issues. And I realized that what I classically knew was not going to help us. So I turned to many alternative practitioners out here in Portland, Oregon, naturopaths, acupuncturists, energy workers, whoever I can go to, because it's not so much that you have health issues, but when your kids do, it's a major problem. So I turned to whoever I could, and even our pediatrician looked at me and said, I can't help you, go to a natural practitioner. And I learned that we had a really high level of heavy metal toxicity in all of us. I had over 30 amalgams, which are those silver fillings, for nearly 30 years, since age 11. And I believe a lot of that stuff passed through the placenta into my children. I wasn't the world's best detoxifier, whatever that means. And we could talk about that another time, but my liver just seemed to like to hold on to stuff. I was holding on to things, for some reason passing them along to my children, but still holding on to them for the most part. In any case, 30 amalgams is a lot because each filling is more than 50% mercury. And when I started doing heavy metal testing, the line just went off the paper. And when I had my first test, I was 20 times above the normal limit for mercury. And my doctor looked at me and said, were you in Chernobyl by any chance? No. And I grew up I grew up maybe in the not healthy air part of New Jersey. Maybe there's a healthy air part of New Jersey. I'm not familiar with it. And I ate a ton of tuna fish, like every day for a few years probably. Maybe not the best beginnings in life. I was always a sick child, and as a teenager I had a lot of depression, anxiety, panic attacks. I was always sick, just tons of sinusitis and bronchitis, which I still had in my 20s. But I learned that I had all these heavy metal toxicity, which was fueling a lot of my problems, making me irritable as a young mom. So I was working for an integrative trauma surgeon who opened up his own integrative medical practice, and he said, well, irritability is the number one sign of mercury toxicity. And I was like, oh. I wear that cap very unproudly. Big sign that says irritability depot here. Not good if you have young kids to be irritable. And I realized I needed to do something about this really soon, because, if you want to get your kids better, you have to get yourself better first, in my opinion. I mean, you could work on all of you at the same time too, which is what ultimately happened in my case. But I also realized that having had over 100 courses of antibiotics throughout my lifetime as well, antibiotics for 2 years or 3 years straight for acne, plus, every time I had a sore throat, I got to go to the doctor in the 80s and got a prescription for antibiotics. So I had over 100 courses of antibiotics. So I had like the perfect lethal storm of a ton of toxicity, as well as resistant bugs that were kind of fomented by all of these years of antibiotics and multiple courses. I had strep throat a million times, I had urinary tract infections, you name it, I got an antibiotic for it. What I've realized in my healing path, and what I see in many clients that I work with, is the overarching need to detox. This has to be part of anyone with a chronic condition, in most cases, not in all, but in many or most. So I work a lot with gut problems, and a lot of those gut problems are accompanied by depression, anxiety, panic attacks, ADD, OCD, ADHD, a family history of Alzheimer's and things like that. And these can be red flags for the presence of toxicity, especially heavy metals. Heavy metals also in the gut can kill off beneficial bacteria, much like mercury was used a few hundred years ago to treat syphilis. It's a great killer of those types of bugs. So having heavy metals in your intestinal tract, they will continue to kill off beneficial bacteria, and they kind of synergize or promote that bad resistant bacteria. So I would say that up to 50% of those with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, actually have some heavy metal issues as well. It's just what I've seen anecdotally working with people, and having had SIBO for about 5 years, IBS for, gosh, probably had it for about 25 or 30 years. So I can say that it can be a huge issue and it should be addressed. I do address it in my practice. I use a very gentle, like daily detox that can be used by anyone, including like toddlers. It's super safe, and I try to make it a priority, but I also realize that many people aren't open to that concept. So it can be difficult, but I think that as alternative or integrative practitioners, we need to get out there and just educate people that a lot of the chronic conditions that we are seeing are caused by toxicity. And it's just really important to take that into account when people are dealing with chronic conditions and you're trying to get them to a better place. I just wanted to put that out there and consider detox. It's pretty big. And I wish you all great health and wellness.